Hey guys, it's Miss Luris. Today we are going to be starting our final really piece of content for this year. So unfortunately, really sadly, honestly, um we're not going to get to a lot that I really would have liked to have gotten to because obviously our school year was cut short and we don't meet as frequently as we would during the year normally. So I'm really sad, but I wanted to get this section in because I think it's really interesting and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about schizophrenia, and I think that it's important that we dispel the myths about schizophrenia. So this is going to be our final topic, chapter 18, section 6. So schizophrenia is a disorder of the brain, of the mind, and it is a problem with cognition. So thinking. Cognition means thinking. A person's thought processes are disturbed and have lost contact with reality. So people who have schizophrenia are no longer living in a quote unquote real world that you and I live in. So schizophrenia does not have a single cause or cure. Usually it's kind of like a perfect storm that causes schizophrenia. So it could be biological, where you have family with schizophrenia. It could be environmental, who you're brought up with, what environment you're in. And it is a collection of symptoms that indicates an individual has a serious difficulty trying to meet the demands of life. So, half of the patients in mental hospitals and psychiatric facilities have been diagnosed with schizophrenia. So, overwhelmingly, people who have schizophrenia are in these hospitals, whereas people who have anxiety, depression, and other types of psychiatric disorders are not as frequently seen, at least for long term, in these hospitals. So here is the definition of schizophrenia in simple terms. So schizophrenia is a psychosis that is marked by a fragmentation of basic psychological functions, attention, perception, thought, emotion, and behavior that are normally integrated so that people can adjust to the demands of reality. So these people do have issues adjusting to the real world, which means living in a home on their own or with family, interpersonal relationships like with family or friends or romantic partners, working, school, things of that nature, and just living in society. So there are two main symptoms that people tend to talk about when discussing schizophrenia. And you should know the difference between the two. I believe that we discussed them when we were talking about drugs. So this should be a little bit of a review. But delusions are one major symptom of schizophrenia, and they are extreme false beliefs that are so firmly held that no evidence or argument can convince the person otherwise. So these are the actual thoughts or ideas, beliefs that are flawed, that are skewed, and no one could convince you that you're wrong or that something else is really the truth. So let's say, I'm in classroom with you guys and I say, the sky is red. And you're all thinking and looking at me like, no, Miss Lewis, the sky's blue. I would literally fight you guys if I were having a delusion that the sky was red. You would not be able to convince me otherwise. I would say, okay, you're all wrong. All of you guys are wrong. I'm the only one that's right. It would be like someone trying to convince you that, I don't know, grass grows out of the ceiling or something like that. You know that it's not true. So you're just kind of writing off the other people and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm the only one that knows the truth, and so on and so forth. So that's a delusion. And a hallucination is something to do with the senses. So your taste, your sight, your hearing, your smell, they're usually auditory or visual. Um, but it's basically sensing something in the absence of appropriate stimulation. So, hearing voices, seeing bugs crawling all over your body, or feeling them even. Um, you might see very disturbing things, or you could see things that are funny or happy. They don't have to be awful, horrific hallucinations. They could be, an imaginary friend or something like that. So, we're going to watch some videos about people who do have all types of hallucinations and all types of delusions, and we will discuss that. So, hallucinations give people the illusion of reality that is outside of their control. So, they can't control this reality, so you can't make hallucinations go away. If you see, let's say, something really disturbing, like in the corner of your room, we talked about those sleep paralysis hallucinations, and they're very disturbing and scary. People with schizophrenia see these things all the time and they can't help it. They won't wake up and, snap out of it. That's just their reality. And 70% of people diagnosed with schizophrenia do experience hallucinations at some point. However, delusions are more common. So, incoherence is another huge indicator of schizophrenia. And it's basically a marked decline in thought process. So, basically, you're not making sense. You're saying things that don't make sense. Your thought processes don't make sense. And the language of someone with schizophrenia may be disorganized speech, and it could be described as word salad. Cat Flower is running with a box, and Pants says no, and Pants is angry. So, what I just said didn't make any sense, or hopefully it didn't make any sense to you guys. That is word salad. That is disorganized speech. So someone with schizophrenia may think that they're making sense, but really they're not. And people with dementia also have this. I experienced this with my own grandfather. He wasn't making sense. So it's not just people with schizophrenia who have this. However, it is a hallmark of schizophrenia. Another symptom, or two more symptoms of schizophrenia, are disturbances of affect. So affect means emotion. And people with schizophrenia sometimes have emotions that are inappropriate for the circumstances. So they may laugh at something that's really sad, or they may get angry with something that's supposed to be happy or funny. Um, my father had multiple sclerosis, and he actually had this disturbance of affect. It was called pseudobulbar affective disorder, I believe. And he always used to tell me the story of when he was at a good friend's funeral. He was listening to, the eulogy, and out of nowhere, he just like started laughing. Um, and he like was hiding his face, and he was actually laughing so hard that tears were coming down his face, and people were consoling him because they thought that he was crying. So he obviously wasn't schizophrenic. It was a symptom from the multiple sclerosis. But that happens to people with schizophrenia. They laugh at inappropriate times and they have inappropriate emotions for the given circumstances. So, another symptom of schizophrenia is the deterioration in normal movement. So, this would be called catatonia. When we get into the subtypes of schizophrenia, you'll see a type is called catatonic schizophrenia, and this may occur as slowed movement, non-movement, or highly agitated behavior. So let's say you go to pick up a glass of water and put it to your mouth to drink. That may be really, really, really slow for a person with schizophrenia. Or you could pick up a drink and just keep it in the air for several minutes at a time. It's called waxy flexibility. We'll talk about it later on. Or highly agitated behavior. You're running around, you're very fidgety, you are making jerky movements. So, another big indicator of schizophrenia is decline in previous levels of functioning. So, it's important to note that you are not born with schizophrenia, and most people do not develop it until after adolescence, maybe in their 20s. So, you could very well be in college, you could very well have a job, and for example, a sharp drop off in productivity at work. So you could be a functioning member of society until one day your your schizophrenia becomes blatant and you stop going to work or you stop doing your work, and that is definitely an indicator. Also, diverted attention caused by cognitive flooding, as if the person is unable to focus his or her attention. So there's so much stuff going on in their brains. They're thinking a mile a minute, seeing things, hearing things. So of course their attention is not going to be focused, which leads to degenerating relationships and also work. And this is a YouTube video that I'm going to show you guys. Can't play it on here, but I will link it in the assignment. So that is it for today. We just went over what schizophrenia is and the different symptoms that come with it. Tomorrow or the next time we meet, we will be going over the different subtypes. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Of course, I'm available for virtual office hours as well by appointment. Okay? Hope you have a good day. Good one and good day.